Welcome to TokStocks, your portal to the ever-evolving world of Canadian small-cap listed stocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds. Today, we're meeting with Norton Singhavon, founder and CEO of Avant Brands, a key player in the global cannabis industry. Avant is a market-leading brand house which is responsible for the cultivation, production, marketing, and sales of high-quality, handcrafted cannabis products. This episode is sponsored by IR Labs, a full-service investor relations firm driving investor engagement through creativity, purpose, and honest communication. For more information, visit their website. Avant Brands is a client of IR Labs and pays IR Labs a monthly retainer for investor relations activities. IR Labs is not associated with Duke Capital or Vested One Media, and neither paid nor received compensation associated with this episode. Before we begin, a quick reminder to consult our disclaimer, as what follows is not to be taken as investment advice. If you're enjoying our in-depth interviews and want to stay in the loop, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit that notification bell. So grab your seats and let's delve into the promising universe of Avant Brands with the visionary himself, Norton Singhavon.
Hey there, welcome to another edition of TokStocks. Today we've got Norton, who's founder, CEO, director of Avant Brands. Hey Norton, how you doing?
Good, Keir. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you. I know you're a busy guy, lots on the go, so thanks for spending a bit of time with us. Just thought we could maybe do a bit of a deep dive and really kind of get into like what's been going on with Avant the last while. Obviously, cannabis is, we had that sort of insanity wave a few years ago where I guess through like legalization was happening in Canada, everybody sort of wanted to kind of hop into it. And then what I think a lot of people kind of forget is that you still got to operate a business after kind of some of the hype sort of fades. And you guys have been slowly, just ticking along, growing, getting deals done. Seems like your financials continue to sort of improve each sort of quarter and each year. So you guys quietly are trucking along here very nicely. So I thought, hey, we should probably have a bit of a chat and see if we can't get a few people interested in cannabis again.
Sounds good.
So maybe I thought, why don't we maybe just get started here? First one, maybe could you tell us a little bit about who you are, a bit about your background, how you got started?
Yeah, so I've kind of been an entrepreneur my whole life. Done a lot of real estate, did a lot of like private equity, venture capital investing, and really, without a long-winded, boring story, the real estate side got me into cannabis. As there were people asking me if I would, buy a building, lease it back to them, fund their equipment. That kind of fast-forwarded into just something that I took a keen interest in. And really, one of the things that really got me excited was when Health Canada started coming out with, I think it was called the MMPR. That would have been their first kind of commercialization of cannabis. So that really started to interest me. In the meantime, I had done some investments, some active, some passive in the US. And in the early days, we started to get a little bit of, attention from what I would call some of the corporate guys looking to enter into cannabis and take the companies public. So we consulted for quite a few companies. One who I'd rather not name because they ran into some financial troubles, but the other one that I will name is Kronos. So we helped them in the early days. And I think running parallel to all this, we got an early look at a lot of cannabis deals before they went public. So we put in our own capital, did relatively well off of it. And it kind of hit a point where it didn't seem like anyone was doing what we thought would be the winning model in Canada. And that was sort of trying to be like the Jungle Boys of Canada, right? Purpose-built indoor facilities, high-end flower, high THC, and
build a brand.
A lot of, yeah, exactly. And building an iconic and somewhat of a notorious brand. I didn't really see anyone that I thought was going to pull it off. The big guys were saying, we're going to grow in giant greenhouses. We're going to grow in Latin America. The mom and pops that I thought might have the product quality to get there didn't really have the corporate expertise, supply chain, sales and marketing, access to capital. So it seemed like a segment that nobody was really going after, or that I thought anyone could really nail it. So we just said, why don't we just try and do this on our own, try and put in a bunch of our own capital, raise money from our friends and family, and let's go after this segment, and let's go after this hard. And I remember bankers and other executives telling me, you guys are crazy, you guys aren't going to be able to do this, you guys are late to the race, you guys are going to raise like every excuse, but we still decided to march ahead, and I think we raised somewhere close to like 45 million before we went public.
Wow.
Which is a pretty good feat for a small group of young guys that didn't really have much of a track record, but I'd say had pretty decent street cred. We were involved in some stuff in the U.S., so we did bring some of the guys out into the U.S. when they were at like, what's that one, MJ BizCon in Vegas. Right. We had some stuff to show them that we worked on and whatnot, and I think the word started to get out a little bit of a couple of the companies that we helped, and we started to gain some, I guess, a little bit of confidence that we were able to raise capital and execute kind of phase one of our growth.
Excellent. So for those of us that aren't as familiar with Avant Brands, you've kind of given a little bit of an overview. Maybe you could kind of get into it a little bit more in terms of like your operations, what sort of business units you have, and then maybe a little bit around your strategy. Again, you've touched on it a little bit, sort of the high-end flower. Maybe you could touch on a little bit in terms of your strategy. Would you mind sharing your sort of business and go over what Avant is all about?
Yeah, so our core business is producing premium flower, but obviously we have some aspects of it which is like pre-rolls and concentrates, but premium flower is our bread and butter. So we have our flagship brand called Black Market. We are in most major provinces and territories. I don't have a jar here to show you, surprisingly.
You get the hat.
yeah, I got the hat. But I would say we're one of the few brands in this country that's actually been able to nail this ultra premium category. A lot of guys try to, a lot of guys say they are, but I think our results speak for itself. I don't think there's another brand that really hits the premium category as hard as we do. And you know what? We're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. We also don't need to be in every single store. I think there's a little bit of a lure to the brand when it's sometimes hard to obtain. And also we have an export division that is started off as, I would say, kind of what you call a side hustle, but it's evolved into something that's quite substantial and quite a significant part of our business. And yeah, like we don't do our own extractions, we don't own retail, we don't do edibles, we don't do beverages. We just keep it fairly simple. Flower in jars, pre-rolls, and of course we do third-party manufacturing for certain concentrate products. But again, it's not a big part of the business.
Right. And then in terms of how much sort of square footage of grow do you guys have these days?
Approximately 180,000 square feet.
Wow.
That would probably make us one of the largest purpose-built indoor producers in the country. I know there are some guys with greenhouses that are bigger than us, but I can't think of too many indoor that would be larger than us. That's operational too.
Right. That's probably when you first got going. It sounds like you've grown quite a bit. I think you were maybe like 25,000 square feet when I met you way back in like 2018. So you guys have grown phenomenally over the last couple of years. How many separate facilities does that sort of cover now?
So we have 5 facilities. I'll go from east to west. We have Great Moose Farms in Ontario. We have Avant Craft Cannabis in Edmonton. Then we have 3PL in Vernon, Flower that we recently bought in Kelowna, and we have Tumbleweed Farms in Chase. So, that kind of tops up our 5 and 180,000 square feet. Yeah, I know when we first met, like we were pretty small. One of the things that I've always been pretty adamant on is crawl, walk, run.
Right.
There was a lot of people in the early days that say, no, you need to hype this, you need that, you need it big. And it's just like, you need to be in Latin America, you need to be in Europe. I'm just like shaking my head and rolling my eyes. And we just kind of kept doing what we did, because how it's playing out right now, which is, a big, I would say, crash in a lot of the cannabis public is what we expected, right? It wouldn't have been sustainable. But we just kept marching forward, baby steps. Some would argue maybe our growth was a little bit too slow. Like, we didn't enter into rec legalization, I think till like 2 years after legalization. Yeah. So
wow.
We played it pretty slow and methodical. But again, I think the way we are building it provides for a more stable and stronger foundation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, excellent. You brought up, you mentioned something about export. Which markets are you exporting to?
Right now, Israel and Australia, and they are both fairly significant size markets for us. And we've recently signed an agreement to go into Germany, so that will start slow and steady, methodical, like what we always do. And if things go well, maybe we'll be a little bit more bullish and aggressive.
What's the logistics sort of look like to be able to get flower from here to overseas?
So it's not as complicated as people think. A lot of it is called bureaucratic paperwork.
Right.
We do have to get certain testing done, depending on the country. Like Australia requires, I believe, a certain phytosanitary certificate. These aren't major hurdles. When the receiving country receives their import permit, we get that. We go to Health Canada, we apply for an export permit. It's usually, a couple of weeks to a month. And then we ship via air.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. I would have never known. I would have thought it would have been on a boat, but
no, the challenge isn't the logistics. I would say the challenge for us is accumulating enough lots so it makes sense to run an import-export process. And the working capital challenges that happens with having to accumulate the lots that you're saving for $1 million shipment or $1.5 million shipment. You're not getting paid on those lots, right? But you still got to accumulate it.
Right.
And then the influx of cash comes, and it comes heavy. But it's the delay that sometimes gets a little bit tricky, because, as you know, Murphy's Law, things always happen.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm sure you're sort of under. I'm sure it's a lot more difficult than when you're sort of letting on. Probably a lot easier to go sell it at your at the dispensary down the street. But anyways, congrats on that. I know that was, again, one of the hype. Oh, we'll just grow it here and we'll sell it over in Europe where we get 10 times the price and everybody's happy.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, good luck. A lot of people went out of business and lost their shirt. So
yeah, if it was that easy, everyone would be successful, right?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe on that note, there has been quite a bit of carnage kind of in the sector. It's almost been like a 4-letter word. Definitely a place where a lot of, investors that were buying into these hyped up sort of public companies have lost a bit of money. So a lot of companies, I guess your competition has been getting fewer, less viable competitors out there. And a lot of companies have been sort of downsizing and reducing staff and sort of trying to survive, having to operate, I guess, in lower margin, compressed sort of margins and whatnot. They're sort of getting smaller and leaner, and you guys have been able to get larger, quite a bit larger since I first met you. What would you sort of, what sets you guys apart? How come you guys are growing when a lot of others are going out of business?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that those are our competitors that are going out of business. And I know we're not Porsche, but I'm going to use this as an example because I know you're a Porsche guy. So yeah. Porsche doesn't care if Ford and GM is going out of business. Porsche doesn't care what Ford and GM are building, right? Because playing in different categories, right? One is kind of for the masses and cheap and cheerful, and one is a premium product that consumers are willing to spend money for, right? So Porsche probably cares what Mercedes-Benz is doing and probably cares what Audi's doing, even though they own Audi. But that's kind of the comparison for me. So there's a handful of companies I would say that are my competitors. I don't think the big guys are. although I personally want the big guys to succeed because I think they pull the whole industry up, right? When Tilray
Right.
stock drops, my shares usually drop. When Tilray goes for a run, usually I go for a little bit of a run. So what sets us apart, I would say, is that we don't have this bloated overhead like the big guys do. We have a product that sells itself. We have a product that we can't keep up with demand. And, we're one of the few companies that we don't have to do retail pay to play, right? Shelf space, that
Right.
data strategy that most companies have to do. And also being nimble. I think being nimble is big because at one point we want to get into retail. We want to build our own extraction lab. But when you're a small, nimble company, you can make decisions. We said, you know what, let's not do this. We don't have any core competencies here. So, it's not like you're trying to steer a giant ship. It's something
Right.
a little bit more nimble and agile that you can pivot. We divested of our assets, but then we broke even, or maybe made a little bit of money. But yeah, like having that flexibility and not having this bureaucratic, 15 layers of directors and VPs in our company, where we can make decisions that we can act on and we can execute them quickly.
Right. Well, that's good. Surprising to hear you say we don't have core competency in some of these areas. That's refreshing to hear because a lot of people would underestimate and think, oh, it's all just part of the same sort of business, having extraction versus having a concentrate versus having sort of pre-roll. There was a lot of brands that tried to do it all, right? They wanted 75 different products on day one, and yet they had no name recognition, and and their packaging was going to look just like the next guy down the street, based upon limitation of the retail sort of environment. So that's refreshing to sort of hear. What do you think sort of about the health of the sector sort of going forward?
I think the sector is going to continue to grow. We're seeing that in the data. Yes, we're not seeing that reflected in stocks, but I think there needs to be a consolidation. Like more of these companies are going to fail because they had no business being here to begin with. I think I'm one of the last founding CEOs of the pubcos too. A lot of them have been ousted. A lot of them failed at other things that they did previously, whether it be mining, crypto, whatever it was, and cannabis was their next get rich quick scheme, right? Whereas for me, it was I'd call it, as of right now, 6 years into it, it's been a significant downgrade for me financially. But I'm hoping in the long run, it's going to pay off. But I think that's the difference, right? We had a lot of people that had no business being in this industry, and they failed at 5 other things they did before, and this was their get rich quick scheme, and their way to clip a few $100,000 a year, pump out their stock and try and make a couple $1 million and move on, right? And
Right.
We're seeing a lot of them have moved on, and then it moved on to psychedelics, and now it's AI, then it's like holy, like it's like whereas for me, I want to build something long term.
Right.
I'm
That's
extremely
great.
competitive,
Yeah.
and I like to win, so
Great.
that's why we're here.
Hey, there you go. That's great. We'll put our money behind you any day. In terms of when you got started, you were, if I'm not wrong, you were a venture sort of issuer. Now you're full sort of big board TSX, if I'm not mistaken. That's a pretty nice sort of level up for you. Has that done anything in terms of being able to increase your level of exposure, get in front of some new investors, give you some better sort of street cred in on Bay Street or Wall Street? What do you think there?
I definitely think it's made a difference. Like, is it night and day? No, but cannabis is somewhat already has a negative stigma. The institutions think that we're all a bunch of high fly by night cowboys that have no corporate governance.
Right.
So I think
We know a
elevating
few
to
of those. We know a few of those, don't we?
Exactly. So graduating to the main board, is definitely a bit of a stamp of approval. If we have tighter reporting restrictions, we're also on the most senior exchange in Canada, which is nice. It's nice to be able to say, hey, we're on the same exchange as Royal Bank and Air Canada. So I definitely think it's added some legitimacy to our company, whereas a lot of our peers are still listed on the venture or even the CSE as a matter.
Right. Yeah, I guess you haven't sort of touched anything in the US. That would obviously make it, I think that was sort of the limitation in terms of why a lot of people listed on the CSE and probably made the CSE a viable sort of exchange, was that they were willing to sort of touch on that. So you've obviously made that a core part of your business to sort of, at this point, kind of stay away from any sort of direct US exposure. Is that correct?
Completely. We've looked into some licensing deals of our brand, but there hasn't been anything that's jumped out at us. We would be allowed to license our brands into the US if it's less than 10% of revenue. So it's something that we're monitoring, but nothing that we're spending a lot of time and resources on.
What do you think about sort of the legalization, federal legalization in the US? Obviously, we've heard investors sort of get excited a few times, only for U.S. policy to disappoint. Is that something you think will happen sort of in our lifetime? You think it'll happen anytime soon, or is it just who knows?
If I were to guess, it's probably the next president and towards the end of their term. But I don't really keep tabs on the U.S. It's the way I look at it is if the U.S. legalizes, more companies can export into these other countries. So I kind of like that. We're the main country to export into Israel, Germany, and Australia. And if the U.S. opens up, yeah, like that could definitely change, and we can have more competition. At the same token, there's a bigger market for me, but I'd have to go set up infrastructure. I'd have to build a facility. I'd have to set up my team. I really do like the U.S., and I think that's something that we'd want to target at some point when we're able to. But no complaints the way it is right now, for me at least.
So based upon your sort of very successful venture capital background and being in sort of an active check writer, do you happen to have a ton of cannabis companies that come knocking and say, hey, Norton, save the day? Is that you get quite a bit of deal flow coming your way?
We do. Ever since we did that bought deal of $23 million, like they were vultures. And they continue to once they saw we made a move on flower, right? Truth is that there's not a lot of things that hit the tick boxes for us, right? Flower hit that tick box. Purpose-built indoor, 15 minutes from our head office, size and scale that made sense. Yeah, but every week I get a couple calls. I get about 2 or 3 a week right now.
Great. Well, that's good. So you get to see what's going on in the universe, and maybe something else opportunistic will happen for you. In terms of maybe the current market and some of the key initiatives you have going on with Avant Brands, what sort of key things are you guys looking to accomplish over the next 6 to 12 months?
Fully realized flower. Get that pumping out at full capacity and selling all that product. Secondly, I would say improve some efficiencies in our facilities. Get those yields up. Get those THC numbers up, because that's what consumers want. And just continue to drive down costs, right? Looking for cost savings. So there's nothing, there isn't some sort of major key milestone that we want to hit. Like if we were building a facility, for example, the major milestone would be complete that facility and get a license, right? But there isn't any of that at this point. And I'd say flower is where lies the biggest upside to the company. That facility has the ability to generate significant cash flows. And really, we've obviously bet that it will. So that's the next 6 to 12 months is really trying to realize or maximize the potential of flower.
What sort of capacity is it operating at right now?
It'd be hard to say off the top of my head. I would say that All the rooms are functioning and operational. It's just that did we have enough plants to fully maximize those rooms, because we want to put organics in, right? So, we ran to a similar challenge when we got 3PL licenses, that our mothers weren't big enough to cut enough clones to fully load up those rooms.
Right.
So I don't know what percentage we're at now, but I'd say we're getting pretty close to hitting fully operational there. Then it's the efficiencies, right? Are we producing the yields that we should be? Is it the quality that it's supposed to be, right? Are we selling all that product? Are we maximizing all of the cost savings? So
Right.
they're not mutually exclusive to one another. We're always going after these things relentlessly.
So there's obviously different price points for flower, right? You got your premium sort of flower. What would sort of be the I guess the difference in sort of price that you like, I guess, for sort of low end product versus like super premium high end black market type product, your sort of top brand? What sort of range do you sort of see in that, in terms of what you'd actually experience in achieving?
So I think the black market is somewhere between 42 to 48. That's before taxes, right? So there are a few other brands that play in that same price point, and then for the most part, I actually like and respect them, and they help drive consumers to the premium category, right? Which is what I like. Then below that, obviously, we're hitting the $30 range, right? $29.99 to kind of 30, 36. There are some decent brands in that price point, in my opinion, too, right? And then you get to anything below that, it's more so value, and it looks like swag.
And you guys play exclusively in sort of top shelf high end flower, or are you sort of in a couple of different categories?
So we're in top shelf, and we also have our other brand Tenzo that plays in the 30 category. But really, black market is our flagship brand.
Right.
The volume and the dollars that we generate from black market far exceeds everything else that we do.
So that's
Excluding
probably
export.
that's probably yeah. So that's probably one of the key reasons why you guys are doing well, is that you're playing in the super premium, in the premium top shelf category. It's going to provide the most sort of margin capability. And then obviously with your business acumen, slow and steady, kind of win the race and not sort of overbuild before you're able to sell those sorts of volumes. That's probably one of the reasons that you guys have continued to thrive in a harder sort of market environment. It's based upon your business strategy.
Having the product to back it up too, right? I think that's key. Establishing consumer trust, bud tender trust, store buyer trust, store owner trust. I think that's key. Being able to rely and trust that our product will be consistent, and a consumer will be happy with it.
Excellent. And how did you get a brand sort of established? Was it did you have like some influencers, or like how did you sort of say, hey, this is going to be a super sort of premium brand? And how do you have consumers that found you? Because again, when we're talking legalization in the Canadian market, packaging was pretty basic. There wasn't a lot to sort of stand out when you went into a dispensary from one brand to the other, except a name on a sheet. How were you guys able to kind of get a brand out there like Black Market?
I think we hit out the park with the Black Market brand. The demographic that we were going after and the type of product that we intend to put in there, I think that the brand really nailed it. That was phase one.
Were you were you a bit of a first mover into that category then?
Not at all.
No?
I just mean our concept before we even launched. So like the brand concept of Black Market and the colors and how we envisioned it and how we did our mock-ups, I think we nailed out the park. So the next phase was putting good product in there. So I think really having a brand that stands out, I think it's pretty iconic. And
right. You got a little bit of controversy at first, I think. Sometimes that also helps, right? It's a
Yes,
little bit of a play on, I guess a bit of an illegal industry, which has now come into
yeah,
legalization. So
yeah,
pretty edgy, I would say, in more than one way. So
yeah.
sometimes that can help get elevate a brand when you have people talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then to top it all off, everyone's probably like, this product sucks. These guys are probably a bunch of corporate douchebags. And then, the product is actually pretty good. And word of mouth travels fast, right? They're like, wow, these guys produce good product. They have unique strains that nobody else in Canada has in the legal market. So I think, those are a few tick boxes. We were, I think, one of the first and few that whole plant, hang dry, hand trim, hand package, right? Not a lot of companies did that when we started, and we continue to do that today.
So one of the things I've obviously had a little bit of a chance to hang out with you sort of socially since moving to Kelowna. One thing that's I've sort of always been struck is that you seem to have a very good core sort of nucleus of team, very loyal. You guys seem to get along really, really well, which is also very important as a business, is that you have people that get along and good team chemistry. How did you go about sort of building that? What's your sort of philosophy on leadership, and was that some of your past experience that helped you, in building team culture?
Yeah, so like, me and my group, we were doing stuff in the US together. We were investing together. We were friends. We've been like, kind of ride or die since day one, right? And I think that's important. I treat my people well. I ensure they're taken care of and they're rewarded. And we just kind of a ride or die group. That's it. There's no, I'm gonna leave and join this other company because they offer me this and that. And that's just kind of the mindset that we've had. And as someone who does invest in other companies, one of the things I really look for, I don't care what industry it is when they have a solid crew. When I see like a one-man CEO tyrant with a bunch of, people under him or her, I don't really like that. I like when people have that kind of ride or die mentality. I'll use an example. There's a dispensary chain in Vancouver called AR Cannabis, and they are like four young guys around my age. They've been friends. Three young guys. They've been friends since high school, and they got into this thing together. They do everything together. They go on family vacations together. Their kids are friends. You have kids around the same age, and it's just a ride or die hustle mentality. And I didn't invest in them because it would have been complicated because of G-Tech / Avant, but that's the kind of stuff that I look for if I write a check into somebody. I want to see a crew started from the ground up, ride or die.
Right. Well, that's great. That's obviously a good testament to sort of who you are as a person, and you're always very hospitable, and I can see why people are loyal. In terms of you mentioned like, hey, this has been a little bit of an opportunity cost for your sort of lifestyle. Having to sort of build this in the public eye. You can't hide from public financials. You're obviously, having to show people improving sort of quarter over quarter, year over year. Hard to pay yourself fair. What's the sort of cap table look like? How much of the company do you own?
Yeah, so we're about 250 or 260 million shares outstanding. I'm about like actual shares, not counting options, warrants, whatnot. I'm about 20 million shares. So I have a decent chunk of the company. I think about $4.5 million of hard cash into the company with an average cost basis of somewhere, the last time I checked was like high 40s or low 50s. So
wow,
I'm here for the long run. I'm like, wake me up at a few bucks and maybe I'll sell a little bit to buy a vacation home. But other than that, I'm here for the long run. I'd say most guys in my age, in my position, they kind of need a win to buy a family home. They need a win to help their parents retire. There's, whereas they don't have the luxury of waiting 5-6 years because, they're renting a place right now. They're going to have kids and they need to move their parents around. There's so many things that happen like when you're this age. I was fortunate enough that prior to GTech and Avant, I did pretty well for a number of years. And yeah, like I don't need liquidity. I'm not in a rush to buy a family home. I'm not in a rush to help my parents retire. Like I have all my bases taken care of. I mean, you've been to my place.
You got some nice bases. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in no rush. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be extremely disciplined and methodical. But I want to build the top dog premium cannabis company in the world. That is my goal. I don't need to be the biggest. I just want to be the go-to. Wow, Avant/Black Market. Like these are the guys we want to import product from. These are the guys we want to talk to. We just want to be the go-to. And I think we're close. We're getting there in terms of reputation. But there's still a long way to go, in my opinion, for financial performance, right? We got to get flower off the ground and we want to be profitable. There's a lot of milestones ahead of us still.
And in terms of like long term, you talked a bit about your vision, who you want to be. Are you thinking that at some point you build a business and it becomes, very favorable again? Maybe there's like an exit, maybe a bigger brand wants to step into the space. Is that something that you at all care about, or you're really just like focused on just making Avant the best, company that it can be, regardless if there's an exit down the road or not?
So the latter is where I'm at. And I believe if you focus on the latter, the first part might come as a byproduct. Right. So I don't really care whether we could take it out or not. I mean, I honestly don't care. I'm not looking for an exit. But if as a result of our efforts and our success, something makes sense and is in the best interest of our shareholders, then I have a fiduciary duty to present that and at least present my thoughts, right? But I'm happy doing this for another 10 years. I don't care. Like I'll keep going. Yeah.
You're having fun.
I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. And like I said, I'm extremely competitive and I like to win and I want to win. So getting taken out in a year to me is not really a big win unless it's some stupid number, Right. But let's say, getting taken out in a year at some sort of level that's sub $1 doesn't excite me. Building and absolutely dominating, and if down the road something happens much higher, then that might be exciting for me.
What's your sort of annual sort of revenue run rate at these days? Maybe on what? Maybe if you annualized your last sort of publicly disclosed numbers, what's that sort of looking like?
Yeah, so last quarter annualized, we're tracking $36 million a year run rate, because I think we did around $9 million last quarter.
Nice.
Yeah, EBITDA I think was around 1.5 or just under 2. So not a bad run rate. Adjusted EBITDA. And when I say adjusted, it's because of the fair value gain and loss in biological assets. It's not like what some companies do, like, oh, we paid this consultant one time, so we're going to, add that back into the EBITDA. Oh, we had to pay our Health Canada regulatory fees one time. So like ours is actually pretty clean. Like, if you look at how we reconcile it, it's one of the most conservative in the industry.
That's good. Now, I know times were not always as great, maybe as, there was like probably some times when your back was a little bit more against the wall and you were like, I'm going to have to pour more of my own money into this. So in terms of like your cap table and some of the financing and stuff that you've taken on, any of that stuff sort of keeping you up at night in terms of that, or are you any sort of like debt or things that might be sort of convertibles? Is all that stuff pretty hunky-dory? Anything near term that's coming up?
So most of our debt is from seller financings, from assets that we bought, so from our partners. And we paid them a mixture of cash and stock and seller financing. So it doesn't keep me up at night. If I bought an asset off somebody and I gave them a pile of stock and I'm financing part of it, I mean, I get comfort knowing that our interests are aligned, right? That they're holding a pile of my stock. So, it doesn't make me nervous. We did recently sign on a credit facility for $3.5 million. secured against a building that we own that doesn't have a facility, a license, or anything, or operations in it. So I thought it was a pretty good play. Instead of selling the building to monetize it, let's just borrow against it, and that way we can continue to have the equity value increase, right? And if we want to get into there later on, we need expansion capabilities. We can finish building out that facility. So yeah, no, nothing keeps me up at night.
What do you think about the valuation of your stock? You've obviously had a little bit of attention from a few other YouTubers with bigger audiences than me. So your stock's obviously been seeing some higher liquidity here recently. But what do you think in terms of the overall valuation of your business? Do you think you should be worth more, or do you think the sector should be worth more, or what do you say to people?
Yeah, I mean, last quarter taking $2 million of EBITDA, annualize that to $8 million. We are trading at 7.25 times EBITDA, which I think it is low. I mean, dying industries that are private, trade at those kind of multiples.
Right.
A company that manufactures horse manure probably trades at a 7 times EBITDA privately. So that's kind of in something that's emerging and something that's growing, and in an industry that's showing significant amount of growth, and a company that's showing triple digit growth. I think we are extremely undervalued. I think at bare minimum it should be like 12 times EBITDA.
Okay, great.
That's my thought.
Excellent. Well, those are some good thoughts. Thanks for breaking that down for us. So that probably, anything else you sort of want to add? I think you've done a great job here. Thanks for answering our questions. And anything else you'd sort of like to wrap up with?
Yeah, I mean, really just we have our work cut out ahead of us. This industry it's not a gimme, and it kind of drives me bonkers when I see all these entitled people complain about the excise tax and complain about this and complain about everything. It's just like, holy crap, guys! Like, it's not a handout. It's not supposed to be build a facility, put out mediocre product, put out a mediocre brand, and get filthy rich. Like it just doesn't work that way. It's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to keep you up at night at times. It's supposed to borderline fail. It's gonna happen, and that's the nature of any industry, right? Go open a restaurant. Let's see how successful you are. Like, go open a retail store. Let's see how successful you are. Business is not supposed to be easy.
At the end of the day, it's still a business, and they tend not to be easy. Otherwise, everybody would do it, right?
No, exactly. So we have our work cut out in front of us. The road ahead. But I'm confident that we'll get there. I'm confident that we'll hit these milestones and targets that I'm targeting. But it won't be an easy ride, right? So, the viewers out there need to understand that this is not a gimme either, right? There's obviously risk in this industry. There's risk in anything you do. But it's about betting on the team and see if they can execute and continue to drive the business.
Excellent. Well, I think that's probably a pretty good note to end on. Norton, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hope we can have you back here as we do some updates and sort of follow the progress. I'm a shareholder, been a shareholder for quite a while, and appreciate the good work that you do. And anyways, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.